You're listening or watching the 904wed.com Real Wedding Planning Podcast with my two fabulous co-hosts. That would be Ann LaFiles right there on the top of your screen, the wedding expert extraordinaire here in Northeast Florida with Premier Bride, and right below her, our very real bride, Amber Flowers, getting married now very, very soon. When this podcast first started, Amber, it seemed like a long time from now, but it feels like it could almost be tomorrow. How are you handling the stress of all of this slowly building up, plus the holidays that are coming up?
Right. How am I handling it? I honestly think that I looked at the countdown today and I saw that it was, like 186 days away or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening. So I also think I'm getting messages because the save the dates are out. So all these messages that I get, I start getting butterflies and anxious. And I'm like, it's happening. So how am I dealing with it? I mean, I think wine's my best friend. And honestly, I've been going and working out. And I've been trying to deal with my nerves that way. And wine.
I think that's great advice. And you've seen a lot of brides in your time here in Northeast Florida. What's your advice to brides out there, along with Amber's suggestions? Exercise, a little bit of wine. How do you deal with the wedding stress? Because it's only going to build, right, up until the wedding day, no matter how much planning and planning help you're doing.
Well, I think it's really mostly about just keeping organized, having lists. If you have a wedding planner, they're really going to take a lot of the stress off of you. I find that most people who are the most stressed probably don't have wedding planners. And so a lot of the responsibilities and things like that are falling directly on their shoulders. But if you do hire a professional, they're going to take a lot of that off of your shoulders. So that's number one. Number two, I think, just staying organized, making sure if you use our guide, even in the back, here's my shameless plug.
Yes.
If you use our guide in the back of our magazine and online, it's going to break it down what you should be doing month by month. So as long as you can check those off, by the time the wedding date gets here, you're going to feel a lot better. And, I think exercise is a great option. It's a great way to relieve stress. So, doing that and just sharing responsibility, ask for help, your girlfriends are going to help you, your parents are going to help you, there's going to be people around you that are going to help you to take and alleviate some of that stress.
Right. And because all these projects really start to build up. And if you're not organized, just like Ann said, I swear it is so important. And Chris and I actually went and he saw my brain going, and we bought one of the trifold like you have in science class, bought one of those and sticky notes and color coordinated them of a lot of different things. My categories are starting of who's working on the floor with food and passing. That's just because Anthony's catering. I know so well. Right. So I kind of put that on the list of
just a little bit.
But yeah, being organized. And coming up, I have a meeting with Amy over at Chandler Oaks. So I'm bringing a bunch of stuff there, and my big board and saying, okay, it's planner to planner sort of thing, and my mom is going to show up a little late on purpose.
But good advice. Think about that, everyone. But let's talk about that for a minute, Amber. You mentioned you're going to go to the venue again here. You've already been there once, maybe twice. Maybe you've been there a lot, right? You happen to be in the industry. But for brides out there who are excited maybe about their venue, they've already seen it once when they walked it, previewed it when they booked it. Should they be going out there additional times? Is that considered rude? Does that inconvenience people? What do you recommend there?
I think Ann and I can probably agree on this. If I could, I live in Orlando, and I know Chandler is very busy, but I would go all the time. I would. I mean, granted, I love the venue, and also certain things you want placed. So, or the lighting. That's what I think about. If there a time change? Is the sunset going to be this way? Where your ceremony is going to be outside? So yeah, I would visit multiple times if possible without annoying anyone.
And what do you say about that? Is that good advice? Is that okay? Are vendors going to really be upset about that?
I think you need to talk to your wedding venue to see like what their hours are and what their schedule is, because every venue is a little bit different. You probably can't just show up, unless it's a hotel, unless it's a hotel that's open all the time where you can just pop your head in. But
Right.
I think that, especially like your wedding vendors that you hire probably have had a lot of experience at every venue. So you can always answer and ask questions of them too if you're having certain questions. Amber, if you need the sunset guide, that's in Premier Bride magazine. There's another shameless plug. So, you don't have to worry about what time the sun is going to set. Going out there and looking, you can look that up inside the magazine. But I would just be respectful of the vendors and making sure that it's okay, because they're probably really, really busy right now with all the rescheduling that they've had to do because of COVID.
Right.
So who knows what their schedules are like at this moment.
So, I've got to ask, this is a wedding planning podcast. A lot about Amber's wedding, but we're also talking about other weddings in general. So to try to incorporate as many questions and get as many answers out there as possible, I was on the phone with a bride today. I don't always get to talk to brides. It's not a normal part of my job, but occasionally I'll get one that was referred to me or something comes up and I get to chat with them months, if not a year before, their big day. And I was talking to one whose wedding is coming up, and she wanted her ceremony to happen outside at sunset, right? Which is a challenge right now, because that means her ceremony won't actually be until closer to 7 p.m. at this time of year when we're filming this podcast right now. What are your thoughts on that? Immediately that come to mind, I'm curious about someone who wants sunset, also photography that has to happen around the same time, and you're going to have a dark wedding towards the end, depending on how long your ceremony is.
Ooh. Well, there is no normal in weddings.
Very
That's
true.
That's my favorite saying. As long as they have expectations of knowing, and they've hired first and foremost, they have to know that it's going to be dark at the ceremony and it's going to be outside. So the photographer is going to have a huge challenge. Now, a professional photographer is going to know how to handle this. So I hope that they hire a professional photographer with the right equipment to shoot at night. And that they're also in the understanding that there's going to be a flash going off the whole time. There's going to be, there's going to be some odd things that will be going on that will be kind of distracting from the ceremony, having a nighttime ceremony at night. So hopefully they're kind of aware of that, and hopefully they've hired professionals that are going to be able to walk them through it. I'm not sure if they're like hoping for an epic sunset or if they're wanting like a lot of candles or something. Like, I don't know what she's thinking through this. But the other thing too is that everybody's going to be starving. I mean, by the time ceremony's over with, I mean, your dinner's going to be, at 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. And that's like super late for a lot of people, especially if she's inviting a lot of old people, because they like to eat early. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, elders, sorry, but
politically correct. I'm secretly hoping it's Anthony's Gourmet Catering that's going to be there. No plug there intended, Amber. That they're going to have some great appetizers for pre-ceremony, or maybe even move the cocktail hour pre-ceremony. We've seen that more and more lately with some of these unusual times where you want to be later because of maybe certain shadows or lines that happen on certain walls. I'm not naming venues here, but it can happen. And you might want to have a cocktail hour that happens before your ceremony to get some things out of the way, and then maybe a very brief cocktail hour after, right? To keep your guests flowing.
And I hope that they take the first looks before the ceremony, because that's going to be really hard to get pictures of the bride and groom when it's dark out, or inside a building. So I hope that maybe they're doing a first look. It just depends. Maybe pictures don't mean anything to them, and that's fine. Pictures don't have to mean everything to everybody. That's just where my brain goes, because that was always something that was really important for me.
Well, let's talk about first looks from a bride's perspective and yours, Amber. I don't know if you're planning to do one or not, and let's break this down for all the new brides out there that maybe haven't read the magazine and aren't up on all the latest terms. A first look is I'll let you define it best, but it's not your first look at your venue. That's what I first thought, right?
No.
It has nothing to do with that. It's your first look at your spouse, right?
Correct.
Sometimes you don't even see each other the way I've seen some of them do. They're back to back, or maybe then you turn at the end and they want to capture that first impression. But in your minds, what exactly does a first look entail? And is there only one kind of first look, or are there different ones?
Well, I like there's good and bad. Now I'll say this: we decided not to have a first look when we got married, but so many people do it for a lot of really good reasons. One is that they want some time, like they're really stressed about the situation, they're nervous about the situation. They want to see their spouse before the ceremony and take pictures and kind of get those jitters. Because if you don't see your spouse before the ceremony, there's a lot more jitters involved than if you've already seen them and you're ready to walk down the aisle and make it happen. So that's really one of the reasons why.
Amber's, she's in her feels right now.
Two, it's just the timing.
Sorry, I had a moment.
No, two is just the timing. You know, the timing of everything. If you have a first look, you're not shoving your photos into 1 hour. You're going to have more time. So it's a lot easier on the photographer as well. It's a lot easier on the bride and groom. You're not rushing as much. So there's good and bad. It just all depends on what you want. Like my husband did not want to see me before. He wanted to get that look, like coming down the aisle. So that's what we did.
Amber?
I made my vendors work extra hard.
Hey, that's what the vendors are here for, to make your dreams come true. Amber, have you given this thought? Something tells me you already have an idea of what you're planning to do with this.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a little twist on that. How that's all going to, let's just say the first look is not going to Chris, my fiance.
Wow. All right.
There's not another person, but besides there's going to be like, so my mom raised me, and I think I spoke about this before, very young and single parent, and she's going to be giving me away, and she doesn't know what the dress is. She was there for the fittings, and she's going to get the first look. And traditionally, I've always just wanted to walk and take those moments down that aisle, and I know I'll have that ugly cry. I get it. I'm not worried about that. I really am not. It's just that moment that I get chills, or as a little girl, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it. And when Anne was just talking about it, I just had like, that moment that I just am going to lock eyes with him. And that is my forever. I just need that aisle right now to walk down. And that's where him and I connect. So first look is going to happen, but I'm worried about the tears with my mom first before I even get down to the aisle.
What a cool idea. And that's the whole beauty of this podcast is, I'm coming into this thinking first look is about bride and groom, right? Or bride and bride, or, groom and groom looking at each other for the first time. But you're talking about it being a special moment with your mom where she's not even going to see you until you're ready to go. So that's pretty special.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I think that just a long time of, she's been with me a very, very long time. So she get to see that first look.
Aw, she's going to love that.
Good for you, yeah. And that will leave her more time to be helping, even though she's not your official planner, but I'm sure she's going to be plenty busy with the catering and everything else going on behind the scenes too.
Oh yeah, she's been busy. We definitely have. Now there's 3 basically planners. So family up until the day. And then I have my mom, Rose, that is my mom's assistant. She'll be there running the show and helping with Amy. And I'm going to take my mom away. And my mom and I and my maid of honor are going to be getting ready together. And then I'll be back, and my hair I'll be at the venue, but I just need that time. I don't want a lot of questions. I know me and I know my personality. And I think that we need to stress that as the bride. You know yourself. So you think of what you can handle, times that by 10 on your wedding. Like, you don't realize you're going to get a billion questions in the what ifs sometimes. you don't really, I mean, most of the time, or you're going to question it, or you're going to be, the control freak. So sometimes take a step away, or just realize that, know yourself in the situation. Like, don't drink too much, and sometimes back away and take a deep breath.
Excellent advice there. Excellent advice. Just hearing some of this, it's making me a little stressed out for you. So let's change subjects for a minute here and talk about what you've been doing for the last week or so as part of your wedding planning process. I know that one of the things you've had out there is not only selecting a photographer, but also a videographer. And a lot of brides, I was just talking to the one today, and she was telling me her parents are paying for most of the wedding, but they're not paying for a videographer. Like, that was a clear line. And she's saying, I'm going to go pay for a videographer because that's the most important memory I want to have. So what are your thoughts on videography? And we'll talk to Amber, too, about what she's going to be doing. Videography is nothing new, although I would say, nowadays with digital and putting it out there in the cloud, it might last longer than some of the photos in terms of its importance or significance.
I think video is super important right now. I mean, I think our lives are revolving around video. I mean, you look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everybody's doing video. So it's part of our lives where, 20 years ago, video was still on film and it was still a totally different thing. But I do feel it's really important. There are some super important things that videos capture that photography doesn't capture. It captures grandma's laugh. It captures dad's speech. It captures, people talking and laughing and smiling and moving and a series of looks. It's going to capture a lot that the photography doesn't always get. So it's going to give the sounds, the bands, the music playing. I mean, it's really going to let everybody into the whole experience.
Yeah.
So I know that it's not one of those categories that if you don't have, your wedding's not going to go on traditionally. But I do encourage everybody to definitely put room in the budget for it, because I think looking back, it's something that you're really going to appreciate. And it's a video that you're going to share with your children and your grandchildren at some point. So I would highly recommend it.
Amber, fill us in. What are you planning to do video-wise?
I'm all for that. Yeah. So speaking of video, I did finally book my videographer, D2R Weddings. And to be honest with you, okay, so one of my friends posted a video, and I didn't even realize she got married at Clay Theater. And the video, I was bawling, but then all of a sudden it switched, and I'm now laughing. And the music selection and the voiceovers, there's things that your personality, you see it and what attracts you to it. So I really loved the way he put this video together, the flow, the music selection. And you know what, when he sent me, and I think for all wedding planners, florists, when you get a questionnaire and it is overloaded with a bunch of questions, and I know every bride, because you know what, it makes it easier when you fill all this out for what information that we're going to send you, or the photographer or videographer or DJ is going to send you. But I loved his questionnaire, and that's where I was like, oh, that's a different question. And I filled it out. He got back with me, and his vibe and his talent, I had to have it. And I think also with Ann saying that video is important. And oh gosh, this is going to sound bad. I'm going to okay, whatever. So I prefer the video. Chris is more about the photography. So
I was not expecting that. I thought it would have been a role reversal, but hey, it's 2020.
Well, I think because yes, but a lot of his family, he has a lot of older. His grandfather's 93. And then his grandfather, they're all in their 80s over there in Ohio. So going and looking at it, they're still using like a VCR.
Well, his grandfather doesn't put cheese on his pizza, okay? So that.
Oh, that's right. No, but I think that they love, at Christmas time and receiving those things and having that on the mantle. And I know that, it's really important. So I know that he really wanted a photographer. I was just trying to pick the mood of the photographer.
Right. Right, and that's a whole conversation itself. But the mood of the video, and let's talk about that, because I think people who haven't seen a video like you have, there's mood to video too. There's different styles. Some it's a more documentary, some it's a more of a trailer, like a movie trailer. Some,
60 minutes.
And others it's almost like a commercial, like a promo video, almost short and
sweet.
And
that's good. Yeah, they have both of those. The package that I went with is going to do both. So you'll get clips that you can kind of post on social media. You'll get one that is like 60 minutes. And he said, you know what? You'll probably make it through 30 minutes. Everybody tells me this, but at least you'll have that. And then I think that there is like a 5-minute clip as well included in the package. And it depends on your hours. Like, just be specific with what you're looking for. Even though they say 8 hours or 6 hours or 12 hours, there's some personal time I want without cameras in your face. And, after I have my eyebrows on and I'm feeling myself, then you could put all those cameras in my face. But I don't, I just need my time.
Let's talk about cameras in your face. This is, we're trying to help people not have regret, not have surprises by listening to this podcast throughout their planning process, share some of our own experiences. And I was at a wedding Friday with excellent vendors. And each of the vendors, the photographer and videographer, both brought seconds. One brought a third, and that means a second, another photographer, or a third in some cases. And we ended up with 5 lenses at some point. It looked like a press conference. It was wild. Wow. Now, they weren't all together. It wasn't all clumped up, but that was one of the most well-documented weddings, I must say, and I haven't seen the results yet. But that's something to think about, right? Is you need to find out, are they bringing other people? Are they setting up other cameras for other angles? And how is that going to affect the look and feel of the decor you want? And how many different tripods and light stands are there going to be? And how much control over that do you have as the bride or the groom versus the vendor? And I'm going to toss that question up to Ann on, how much direction should a bride or groom be giving their vendor for all the money they spend on decor to not have a whole bunch of tripods and stands and lights that take away from the ambiance in the room?
Oh, wow. I think when you have a lot of cameras and a lot of coverage, it's because the bride and the groom, or the bride and the bride and the groom and the groom, have stated to the videographer and the photographer that element is the most important thing for them, and that they're really looking forward to the photos and the video. And that's their number one. Because when that becomes your number one, then people go into a whole new mode of coverage and making sure that they're meeting the expectations of the couple who are paying for that service. So if you want amazing coverage and thousands of photos at all different angles and things like that, then you can expect to have 2 or 3 photographers shooting your wedding. And you're probably paying for that as well, and you don't mind because that's your number one. If your number one is, a party atmosphere with your friends and family, and it's all about the decor and the ambiance, then you're probably not paying the photographer to stay there all night, take the photos, and paying for a second shooter. So it just really depends on what your priorities are.
So Amber, I'm gonna toss this one to you. I'm curious if you've thought about this and what direction you're giving your videographer and photographer when it comes to the number of people and lenses, if you will, and tripods, legs, right? People, lenses, and legs that they're adding to your ceremony and your reception.
Right. That's a great question. I think when I go there next week, it's something to definitely look at, because it's also a thing that I pointed out in the conversation that I was having with the videographer of how I just truly cannot stand interference or clutter or wires. However, I think it's very important for me personally in the ceremony, because I'm not having any cell phones there, for there to be multiple photographers. Usually when I see a third in there, it's not I've never seen 3 photographers before, but I have seen, 2, and then a third is an assistant to straighten the dress out, or, stuff like that, where it looks good when you're up there, at the ceremony. So yeah, I don't know. I hopefully when I ask this question, I want to know exactly where they stand, because going back to where the lighting was, and I know it is in the back of the book, but back of the magazine, but where we are standing over, the sun peaks so directly into, and you can look at it. So that's where, and sometimes when it's direct sun, the lenses do not capture what you want them to capture.
Right.
So again, I'm going there and I will ask that question. I want to know where the tripods go. When there's multiple photographers and the videographer, there's 2 as well. So he has an assistant.
Right.
We see some interesting stuff out there at these weddings. We, as DJs, we get this unique perspective that we're kind of off to the side at ceremonies. And while we might be kind of the center of attention for dancing, we'll see videographers set a tripod up right where a photographer's trying to shoot. And they're going to be in every picture.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is that your photographer and your videographer really need to talk before the wedding.
Absolutely.
And it's probably
extremely
really important. It's probably really important that, hopefully they've worked together in the past and that there's a mutual respect for both of them, because this is what I hear all the time, is that the photographer thinks that they're the most important, the videographer thinks that they're the most important, and they're going to get in each other's shots. And there has to be communication beforehand to know where they're going to be and how each other is going to keep the other ones out of it. I mean, we had a boom in our wedding. Like at the ceremony, we had a boom.
I'm not surprised.
And in the reception, we had a boom because we had like a crazy concert, going on inside too. And so Mark wanted a boom for the video. And, we had to work around that.
Do you have that video still?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we got a link to it. We're going to get Anne to find the video. We're going to upload the boom shot. I want you guys to see this so you guys can understand the production that went into her ceremony to have a boom there.
But people also need to understand that we owned a full service concert production company when we got married, and so that was a big deal. Like for my husband, the entertainment, we had 2 bands coming from Nashville, and so that was his whole deal. So yeah, and a DJ. We were insane.
I mean, look right below you, Anne. We're not far from it here with Amber.
I know.
Okay?
I know. I feel Amber's pain. I know what she's going through because I did the same thing.
And she doesn't own a production company. But let's talk about one thing that you mentioned before we disconnect. You mentioned that you're having a disconnected ceremony, and that's something that you can't disconnect after the fact. You got to plan for that. You can confiscate cell phones and lock them up. You can have people ask. You can do all sorts of things. What is your strategy to deal with this? Are you just going to make a request? Are you putting up signage? Are you blocking cell phone signals? Because we see it, and it's a terrible look to have people holding their phone up,
it is.
like this, trying to shoot something.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to advertise it on the website. Yeah, right. Or they're recording themselves as you walk down the aisle, like, look at her, like, stop. And then I can only imagine what my face is going to be like if somebody does that. It's like, but so yeah, I'm going to have signage as well, but I'm also going to put it on the website and on the invitation and wherever they book their rooms. I don't know. Bring the cell phone, sit on them, turn them off, turn on airplane mode. I don't care what you do, but it's, and you know what, to be honest with you, nobody's going to put their cell phone out if somebody
they will.
It not.
Oh, they will.
Yes, they will.
They will do it.
They will, Amber. Yes, they will.
I'm going to have a little ninja just do a roundhouse and just kick it out of their hand.
Preach, Ann. Preach.
Your officiant is going to need to make an announcement before anything gets started.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
you're going to need to have a sign. I'll tell you what, my 2 cousins who are absolutely awesome, and they were in my wedding as ushers, but they also doubled as water gun security for cell phones. So we told people, and we have a photo. I'm going to have to dig it up. We have a photo where our officiant told people that if they pull out their cell phone, that my ushers were authorized to super soak them. And they turned around, and there are my cousins in sunglasses with 2 giant super soakers standing at the back of the ceremony. So people were serious.
Epic.
But you know what's awesome? Is that all of my awesome ceremony photos do not have one single cell phone.
Leave it to Anne. Leave it to Anne to come up with a hack here. A hack.
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
And you can steal it. I encourage everyone to do it. Mm-hmm.
I hope they have shirts. I hope they have shirts that say cell phone security on them.
Yeah, I mean, it gives like some fun people a really fun job at your wedding. If you need them, you need to like give somebody an assignment who has a fun, outgoing
could
personality.
I potentially put like a really cute, inexpensive basket under every chair, and when the officiant announces like something like, everybody please place their cell phones in that basket, like so it's not like in your hands, just put it underneath your seat.
Maybe.
Because I have a habit, like, I understand, like, please don't pull your cell phone, but now that you said no, yes they will, I think it's a natural habit now for us to, when we see something, grab our phones and like, oh, I have to get this. So their phones are underneath the seat. They'll probably have an aha moment why they're underneath the seat and not in their pockets.
Yeah. I mean, you could always try it.
Modern problems, folks, but this is a real thing, and you've got to have a strategy for it. Here's the other thing that I hear that neither of you mentioned, I thought for sure you would, is we hear a lot of brides complain, it's never the groom, right? It's always the bride, say, hey, I don't want pictures of my wedding to be on social media before I walk down the aisle, right? That at the end, right? That's always a problem. Like they want to be able to post the pictures and make the announcement. You don't want all these guests at your wedding doing it, but you're also encouraging people with the hashtag too, right? To post. So.
Right. So that is something, and I know that I've actually touched on this subject before, because there is somebody that is running the social media. So there's going to be a cell phone there, but I know the people that are going to have the cell phones, and they're going to be running the social media part of it.
And now you know the people that are going to have the water guns.
Right?
Yeah, you can just, in your security settings on Facebook, for instance, like you can just put that you want to review any photos that you're tagged in. Yeah. So people won't, it won't pop up on your feed if somebody's like stalking your Facebook page who, didn't get invited to the wedding but wants to see what she's wearing, But you're probably you're never going to be able to stop people from posting photos. I mean,
it's a free-for-all once you get inside. Yeah. Like, okay, pull out your cell phones and have a good old time. Don't care. Oh, right. Let's have that moment.
Or you call the cell phone companies and you tip them off to shut those towers down, right? Near Chandler Oaks.
We can put a scrambler. We'll put a scrambler in, Amber. Who knows? The service might be shoddy, with so many people there anyway. It could also, not really go through when so many people are trying to jump on that tower.
Right, and that is a great point, Anne, because I know that place it's a hit or miss with service. So, ladies and gents, I a long time ago bought an Orbi, and it's just a booster. It's something that came in handy at the 841 venue, and it's a booster, so that will be probably inside of the venue, just in case.
There you go. I love it. You're adding some value. You're taking advantage of technology, and at the same time, you're trying to manage its use. That's the world we live in right now.
How is the internet connection here? How is the Wi-Fi?
Especially if people aren't going to hire a DJ and rely on, an internet music service to do their
Oh
music.
my God.
Let's not talk about that.
Just saying.
That should be a question you ask. Do you have all your vendors, but especially your DJ and your photo booth if you're doing one? Do you require Wi-Fi, and what kind of strength are we talking about? Do you need for an internet connection for everything to work? But we'll save that for a future episode because we are out of time on this one. It is time for us to disconnect and scramble this episode. And we appreciate all of you watching. Amber, what is coming up? Tease us with what's going to happen here over the next week or two for you.
Well, I am headed into Jacksonville. I have a meeting at Chandler, but I'm bringing in the planners there. We're going over all of my Pampas comes in. I have loads of Pampas coming in. And we'll get on that next episode of where and how I found all this. And then we're putting table settings together and coming up with a really special piece that is going to be tied into the family. Tied in. So,
get it? Tied in? I get it. I hear where you're going right there. Well, we cannot wait to hear more from you. If you have been watching along, we're well past 10 episodes at this point. So start back over if you have missed any, but please subscribe. Whatever platform you choose to listen on, we are putting this everywhere because we want this wedding planning podcast to not just be something you enjoy following Amber along with her wedding journey, but something that you can use for yourselves, or if you're in one of those supporting roles, best man, maid of honor, matron of honor, use this information to support your bride and groom as well. And Amber, thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone else, we will catch you on our next episode. Once again, this is the 904wed.com Real Wedding Planning Podcast, brought to you by Premier Bride of Northeast Florida and jaxhomes.com. We will catch you next time.